Trey Wingo, let me get through the intro here, 33rd team. Pregame Powerup on DraftKings. Don't know if they're doing that during the playoffs, but we did it during the regular season. You are. Great. And, of course, Alternate Routes, the podcast, and that doesn't even touch it because we haven't even talked about golf. Down the road, we'll do that. So I want to ask you an Alternate Routes question, sir, before we get into other things.
Hit me.
Had Sean McDermott squib kicked it, kept it in the field of play when they had the 3-point lead on the Chiefs with 13 seconds left, and Kansas City had, I think, no timeouts. Or maybe they had two. I don't know if they had timeouts or not. They needed a field goal, and they needed however many yards to get themselves in range. Do you think Kansas City's trajectory is different, or more importantly, Buffalo's?
Well, I think that if they had just done that, the Bills would have won that game. I don't think there's any question about that. I think Kansas City had two timeouts, and they were able to get up two plays because they took no time off the clock.
Right.
They hit the big one to Tyreek, and then they hit the slot to Kelsey, and it turned out to be like a 42-yarder for Butker. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what would have happened against Buffalo in that AFC Championship game against the Bengals, because that Bengals team was just feeling themselves, and they were young and didn't know any better. But I certainly think that we would look at Buffalo differently because, they go into this game with the Ravens on Sunday night, likelihood, realizing that the winner of that game's got to go to Arrowhead and deal with the Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, and he is like, this is the way I've said it. It reminds me a lot of the run with the Patriots where you had the best quarterback coupled with the best head coach, because I think that's what the Chiefs have, the best quarterback and the best head coach.
I think you are reading the situation perfectly, and people will say, but Mahomes, 26 touchdown passes, and this and 11 interceptions. I think we've reached a point, Adam, where we are at what I call CDS, which is Chiefs derangement syndrome. People are so sick of them doing what they're doing. They're coming up with all these cockamamie reasons why it's happening. Well, they get all the calls. Actually, they don't. If you go back to the start of 2020, you want to take a guess at which quarterback has had the second most touchdowns overturned by penalty?
Oh,
take a guess.
I'm going to guess the answer is Patrick Mahomes.
That is correct. Okay? Now, remember, everyone's online on the Rams right now because look how great Puka and Cooper are with Matthew Stafford.
Right.
Well, when the Rams started 1-4 this season, neither Puka nor Cooper were on the field. People were like, oh, my gosh. Clearly, that's why the Rams' offense is struggling. They don't have their top two wide receivers.
Right.
Yet, when Patrick Mahomes lost his top two wide receivers and his number one running back 3 games into the season, when Hollywood didn't even get to the Week 1 game, people are like, well, what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? I mean, dude, who else is going to lose their top two wide receivers and their number one running back and start 9-0? Like, guys, just come on. Let's just deal with reality here. And here's the problem for everybody else. When they take the field Saturday, that's going to be the healthiest and deepest they have been this entire season. And I want to be clear so people understand. This team, when they take the field, it will be the first time all season long when they will have Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Noah Gray, DJ Humphries, and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes on offense. Okay? Now let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Chris Jones is going to be back. And here's the thing that no one's talking about. Jalen Watson, who was the corner that was taken over for Legette Sneed and played great until he broke his fibula against the Niners, he's back at practice this week. There's a real chance he could play. So now you have Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, Leo Chenal, Nick Bolton, Trent McDuffie, and potentially Jalen Watson back on defense. To that I say, good luck, Houston.
And Trey Wingo is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show at Wingo's with a Z at the end is joining us here. All right, so You've completely made me change my idea that this was going to be a close game because Kansas City played a lot of close games this year. Because the Texans really have not been great. I thought that the win over the Chargers I thought their defense played very well, but I thought that win was as much about the Chargers not playing well as Houston playing well.
They should have been up 17-0 in the first 10 minutes of that game. Instead, they were up 6-0. Well, here's the other thing. Here's what I can promise you is not going to happen. Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw 4 interceptions in this game. Justin Herbert, and one of them was clearly not his fault.
Right.
Justin Herbert threw 3 interceptions all season. He threw 4 in that game. And with all due respect to the Chargers and what they were able to do with Harbaugh, their offense is extremely limited. Look, just go back to the last game the Chiefs tried to win, okay? It was the Christmas Day game against the Steelers. It was the first game all season. Patrick Mahomes threw for over 300 yards, 340, and 3 touchdowns. They go on the road to a 10-win team and tap dance them by 20 points. Yes, it was 29-10 because of a missed extra point, blah, blah. But you get my point.
Yeah.
When they were all there. We're like, hey, guys, because I feel like the Chiefs' entire season has been, can we just get here? Can we just get here? We know what we're playing for. These regular season games, yeah, they're fun and they're important, but we're built for this. And when they had a chance to lock down that number 1 seed, they went out and just obliterated the Pittsburgh Steelers team by more points than the Ravens did at home, and the Steelers were at home for that game.
Yep.
The Bengals barely snuck by a 2 or 3 point game against the Steelers. They're always complaining, but they're not in the playoffs. Well, games in September matter too.
Yeah.
So you might want to consider that, Cincinnati. All I'm saying is everybody has looked for reasons to denigrate the Chiefs all season. You are going to get the full experience. Now there might be a little less, whatever, but Andy Reid's record, including postseason with a bye, 29-5, and wait for it, that's the best in the history of the NFL with extra time. So I'm going to say he's going to figure it out. And look, they're at this is what they've waited for all year. This entire season has been Kansas City essentially playing with their food. And now they're ready to eat. And, we'll see what happens.
Trey Wingo is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. All right, to the contender or the contenders that are going to face each other. Like, I can't even put into historical perspective how we're watching Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen play each other in the second round of the playoffs, considering that these are easily the 2 MVP candidates. There's no other vote. Part of me wishes it would be tied, but regardless.
Me too, actually. Me too. I'd love to see it split between them.
They are both. They've carried their teams here. Lamar has had that Derrick Henry guy, which has helped.
Yeah.
I don't think Buffalo has another one of those. But I look at this game, and the Ravens are a very slight favorite in Buffalo. I look at this. I think obviously the winner is going to get Kansas City. As long as Kansas City does their job, I think the Ravens' defense might be playing at a level where I don't know that they're not the best team.
That's fair, and I think it happened about mid-season because for the first 6 or 8 weeks of the season, the Ravens' pass defense was atrocious.
Yep.
I mean, they were giving up about 275 yards per game through the air. And then they made an adjustment with Kyle Hamilton, moved him back to his more comfortable spot, and lo and behold, they got a lot better. And I think that's true. Now, you can also say that when the Buffalo Bills played the Ravens that first Sunday night game, September 29th, I think it was, where Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards, Matt Milano wasn't there, Terrence Johnson wasn't there. They had a bunch of pieces missing from the Bills' defense. The other thing to consider in that game Sunday night is the weather is going to be a factor. There could be snow, it could be freezing, really cold temperatures like 14, about 0 wind chill, whatever.
Buffalo.
But as much as we love that, it really actually favors Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore has Derrick Henry and the leading rusher in the history of the NFL in terms of quarterback plays in NFL history, in Lamar Jackson. They are meant to run the football.
Yeah.
And so James Cook has been great, don't get me wrong, and Josh can run things for you. But it is all about Josh in Buffalo. Now, the Zay Flowers injury concerns me a little bit if I'm a Ravens fan, but if you tell Lamar, hey, we only need to throw it like 15 times, and in those conditions, that's a favorable matchup for Baltimore, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Ravens in the game. I thought it was interesting that at the beginning of the game, against the Steelers, they used a lot of zone read action with Lamar Jackson, involving him immediately in the run game. They've been basically a throwing team when they're not handing off to Derrick Henry all season long, but they really leaned into Lamar's legs early against Pittsburgh. I wonder if those were body blows to the Steelers.
They were, and here's the other thing I would caution, and everybody does this, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody. We all fall in love with the teams that look good on Wild Card weekend. And then you realize, okay, but they're playing Wild Card weekend for a reason.
Right.
Like the Steelers were dead. Let's be honest. The Steelers were dead men walking. They came in losing their last 4 games. They've lost their last 6 playoff games. And everyone hates Mike Tomlin. My question and my response to that would be, when has he had the better quarterback? Like when in the Mike Tomlin era has he had the better quarterback?
I'm with you.
And you have to go back to a couple games when he had Ben Roethlisberger, maybe against Joe Flacco. And people say, well, he's got to get a new one. Okay, well, it's not that easy, right? They're trying to get Russell Wilson. They're trying to get Justin Fields. And the problem is Mike is so good at coaching up his players that they never lose. They never have a losing season. So in one sense, he's the victim of his own success.
Yep.
And people will say then, well, that's his. No, his job is to win games. It's the front office to try and find a quarterback. And now, no matter who they bring in next year for Mike Tomlin, at minimum, he's going to be the 3rd best quarterback, or maximum 3rd best quarterback in that division when you have Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow there.
Right.
So it's a tough spot for Tomlin. So what I'm saying is Baltimore looked great. Let's not overreact. The Rams looked great against the Vikings. Let's not overreact. I thought the most impressive win of all those teams that played Wild Card Weekend was Buffalo. They took an opening shot from Bo Nix, huge play.
Yeah.
Young team that doesn't know any better. Hey, we don't know we're not supposed to be doing this. And then they methodically just wore them down. They just absolutely wore them down, and I thought that was really impressive.
All right, I'm gonna give you a counter to that as our last item to get to. Trey Wingo joining us here, because I thought the most impressive thing was Washington staring down Tampa Bay on the road and coming with Jaden Daniels. Look, they've got a lot of veterans around him, so it's not like it's a team of rookies. It's not like watching a bunch of freshmen like Duke basketball. But the way they approached that game, they never, ever blinked. And look, I think Tampa probably made enough mistakes to give Washington the opportunities. But, man, they are impressive. I don't think they'll beat Detroit, but I think that game could be great.
I think we might not see a punt or a field goal attempt in this entire game. And I mean that sincerely. And we talk about how impressive Detroit's defense was against the Vikings. Well, we saw in that game against Minnesota and the Rams that the Vikings have offensive line issues. And in that Week 18 matchup, there were open plays for Sam Darnold. He just missed them on those first 2 drives inside the 10-yard line. He just missed them. He's not going to miss those guys. And if I'm the Commanders, if I win the coin toss, I take the ball. I don't want to defer. I want to take the ball. I want to take the ball and go at them and see what happens if we put points on the board first and how they respond.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, not that I am a huge gambler, but over 55.5 does seem like free money. But I'm not, I've been wrong before. I'm way more wrong than I'm right, but that does seem like free money. But
yeah, exactly.
I could be wrong about that. Trey Wingo, Pregame Powerup, DraftKings, 33rd team, the alternate routes on Wondery. I mean, we'll get to the rest of the business card next time. Sir, I appreciate your time as always.
You got it, Adam. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Trey Wingo here on the Adam Gold Show.